Welcome to another edition of the Brainstorm. I'm meteorologist Matt Gray. Boy, this is really going to be something in our local weather next week as we're looking at a really long stretch of cold temperatures. In fact, could be some of the longest stretches of cold temperatures, at least when you average everything out, in about 10 years or so. So this is a very different type of outbreak of Arctic air. Many times when this happens around here, we usually kind of get some air that's spilled over from Montana, for example, and it will hang around for a little bit, but it doesn't hang out for the better part of a week, and that is what we have the potential to see, and I think it's a very good potential to see as we go into kind of the period after Christmas Day. We'll see a little bit of it on Sunday, but really it's starting Monday and could last all the way into New Year's Day before things start to really noticeably warm up. So I'll kind of show you here what some of the what the situation is. We have pretty cold, frigid, sub-zero air that's lurking to the north in British Columbia, and this has been moving through the entire week, basically from Siberia. In fact, you can see the wind streamlines that I've put on here, and that frigid air, it's a direct line from Siberia and the Arctic, across Alaska, across the Yukon Territory of Canada, and into BC. So this is really, it's not hard to figure out where the air is coming from and why it's going this way. It's being pushed along. The wind pattern is taking it directly into our neck of the woods, and as it continues to track to the south, really there isn't much that's stopping it from kind of squiggling its way into all of our little valleys and nooks and crannies here in the inland northwest, especially in our northern counties. Now, what's so interesting is a lot of this colder air has been displaced, and that's for several reasons. There's multiple reasons every time that you get some of this extreme movement of this cold polar air, but one reason is we've had some very strong kind of warm high pressure that has moved across Greenland and is now sitting actually over in the North Pole. Greenland's experiencing some record high temperatures right now, above freezing along the Greenland coast. And anytime you have that warm air that pushes up, well, it means usually that cold air that'd be normally sitting up there, well, it has to go somewhere else. So, all these mechanisms in the atmosphere, they both feed off each other, or they both cause each other and reinforce what the other is doing. So it's a little bit of a chicken of an egg sort of situation, but usually when cold air is diving to the south, it means warm air is heading up to the north in some other place. Everything is connected. Speaking of everything is connected, let's swing back over to the coldness of Siberia. And boy, there's some really, really cold air sitting just north of Korea and across northern Japan. And this has helped to create strong temperature differences, and when that happens, it means that there's usually a pretty strong jet stream, strong Pacific jet stream, 100 plus mile an hour winds, and that is pushing a lot of air over the North Pacific. So think about the jet stream in a way like this. The jet stream is not a single entity. There's areas where there's really fast moving air, and there's areas where there's slower moving air. And as you get periods of fast moving air, it means at the end of that streak, or jet streak as we call it, you're pushing a lot of air into one space, and that means that air has to go somewhere. So oftentimes you create areas of high pressure in the upper atmosphere downstream of these jet streaks, because you're basically pushing more air into a given space, and then that has to spread out, and well, you end up creating this high pressure dome that's sitting over the North Pacific. And this is a pattern that is very common in a certain climate pattern that we are in right now. More on that in a second, but I do want you to notice, look where these kind of high-speed winds are going, thanks to this high pressure being created in part because of this strong Pacific jet stream in the West Pacific. Well, now over the eastern North Pacific, we got strong high pressure, and those jet stream winds are pushed to the north, and basically they're bringing down some of that colder air. That cold Siberian air is riding on that jet stream across Alaska to the north of it. It is going to be pushed down eventually into us here in the inland northwest, all thanks to that high pressure that's steering that cold air around it. What type of pattern is this common in? Well, it's a pretty common pattern in La Nina, and lo and behold, we are in a La Nina pattern this year. So, not saying that it happens all the time during a La Nina winter, but it is a pattern that is more likely to occur when you have La Nina conditions in the tropical Pacific Ocean, colder waters on our side of the world. So, hey, no surprise here that we're seeing this sort of pattern, and it just happens to be an extreme version of it. Let's go to the computer models, and we'll show you kind of what is expected to happen. That frigid air drops down across the flatlands of Montana. Takes a little bit longer to wiggle through the valleys of BC, but eventually you have a pretty cold upper level low pressure system that's higher up in the atmosphere that moves over our area and brings that frigid air along for the ride and spreads it across North Idaho and the Columbia Basin. And man, it really digs in as we head into New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So we're at least talking about having that frigid air stick around for at least that long and potentially longer. Look at Thursday. So the main weather feature responsible for this has moved on by this point. It has weakened considerably. However, because this cold air has sunk to the bottom of all of these valleys and these areas hemmed in by all the big mountains around us, it's going to take some time and a very vigorous weather system to dig that cold air out of the valleys. And so that means that this is going to be sticking around longer than the weather system that actually spawned it. Plus, northerly winds. That always helps keep cold air around. So you can see this will likely last not as perhaps severe as it was in the middle of the week, but into next Friday, we could still be talking about pretty cold, much colder than average temperatures as we go into Friday and even into next weekend. How cold are we talking? Well, in the mornings, sub-zero, especially as we go into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, is on the table. For high temperatures, we're going to struggle to get above or to get into the double digits above zero. I think that much is assured. We are going to see how things play out through the weekend, but the confidence is pretty high that we're going to see some very, very cold temperatures. So what do you need to be doing? Well, there's always things that you have to think about this time of the year. Car batteries usually have problems, so you want to have a contingency plan there. If you don't have jumper cables, might be time to get some. So in case your car doesn't start because the battery's all whacked out because it's too cold, you need somebody to help you out. Non-insulated pipes, you always got to check pipes when it gets this cold and it stays this cold for this long. Pets and livestock, if you've got animals that are used to spending time outdoors, this type of cold for this long, that starts to take a toll. You wouldn't want to be out there doing that. So got to make some contingency plans there. And most importantly, you cannot dress like an average winter day because, oh boy, especially if we see sub-zero stuff in the morning, which the snow cover on the ground makes me think that might become more likely. So multiple layers, considering extra layers, really something that you got to consider. This is a great graphic by the National Weather Service that shows you how you have to dress different for when you get on the border of extreme cold. And I'd say single digits are pretty extreme in our area. That's a pretty rare. And if we are not able to get into double digits in the afternoon, that will be some of the coldest weather, especially if that happens for a couple of days next week. That could be some of the coldest weather we've seen in about 10 years or so. So that's what's going on. We will keep you informed as we refine the forecast for next week, but this is really going to be something, I think. So you needed that heads up before you get busy with things over the Christmas holiday. And yeah, get ready. bring out the big coats, the big mittens, the big hats, the face coverings, all of that, because it is going to be cold next week and even into the very start of 2021. We'll keep you updated, and if you like videos like this, subscribe to 4 News Now on YouTube. You can watch more videos of the brainstorm and lots of other news and weather forecast updates going on in the inland Northwest. Have a great rest of your day.